Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the Technical Trader, Tuesday night, July the 9th. And these are the charts of the day at TechTrader.com. Another update on Wall Street. The market keeps chugging along. Hasn't broken yet. It's staying on the long side for now. I'm very curious about the pattern developing in AMD. If you take a look at the overall chart, you'll see that big downtrend in 2012 that took it from the 8.25 level all the way down to under 2. But after popping back in the early part of this year, and then pulling back to set up a nice base, we had the strong surge that took that stock from about the 2.25 range to nearly 4.5, almost doubled it. And at this point, you can see that a coil has developed over the last 8 weeks. With the 50-day moving average rising up to meet price, this is the time when this stock needs to make a move. So keep your eyes on this stock. And if you see any kind of surge over 421.2, expect to test the 439.40 area, and above that, we're off to the races. Possibly a move to test the gap up around 5 3/4 would be my first guess, and then perhaps 6 1/4, 635 would be my secondary target. But keep an eye on this pennant or coiling pattern because it could be a setup for a nice additional move. If you take a measured move on it, from about 229 up to 442, you get about 6 1/4, and that would be my next target anyway. INO. Now, normally I'm not high on these lower price stocks, but the base pattern and the volume that's come into this in the last few days has intrigued me. Here's your big base going back a couple of years. You can see the line of resistance, and then you can see the price volume surge that took it through it and back down to it to test the 10-day. It turned right around and spiked up the last 2 days. 9.4 million today, up 23 cents, 24%. The second, one of the top gainers on my board today. I would look for at least a follow through to get up near 150. That's my next target. Now, that in and of itself is a nice potential percent move. If you take a look at the 2-day chart and then pull it back a little bit more, you'll see that the spike high at 09, took it up to 340 would be my secondary target. Neon, very much like this pattern. If you take a look at the long-term pattern, you'll see that the weekly chart shows some swings back and forth. But in the last year, it's from September of last year when it spiked down under about 3 1/4, it's doubled. And in particular, we had this falling wedge or coiling type pattern that broke out about a week and a half ago. That was followed by a very tight little pennant flag, whatever you want to call it. Volume receded, but the moving averages crossed over and moved up. At this point, a big spike took place today, 48 cents or 8%, and the shares were 1 million shares. That's the biggest volume since March. Take a look at the overall structure. You'll see we may be headed for a test of the spike high around the 740. Yeah, 740. That's my next target, followed by a test to the top of the channel, about 8.5. So 740 and 8.5 are my targets going forward. This sure looks like a potential swing trade. We'll keep an close eye on that tomorrow. Up next is Netflix, and this stock has been a monster ever since it ran from the high 50s. Let's call it high 50s. Let's see. Yeah, $55 back in October. It's rolling all the way up to 247, or nearly quintuple, and yet I don't see an end to this. With the stock having traded over 300 at one point, I would not be shocked to see this get up to 3 1/4. That's my intermediate target. My short-term target is 275. Nu Skin had some news after the close and is up dramatically. But if you take a look at why, in addition to the technical break that it had in the last couple sessions, today it jumped on earnings. It's about 8 or 9 points higher in the aftermarket. So we'll keep an eye on this tomorrow. But on an intermediate to longer term basis, these are all-time high territory here. And it wouldn't shock me to see this being a $100 stock down the road. Big day for Perry as PERI seems to have snapped out of its falling channel through the 10 and 21-day moving averages and through initial lateral resistance right there. So at this point, if we get a follow through, look for a test of the 12 3/4 range, and then through that 13.75, 14, maybe as high as 15. But that's my targets for Perry going forward. The mid-channel line is about 15. Top of that channel says we could be in the low 20s in the next few weeks. We shall see. Revolution. Folks, I'm a believer that this is about to make a big move. Take a look at the structure since it blew up in May. It's been consolidating sideways along the moving averages and finally has met the trend line here. So at this point, with the coiling pattern, with the last couple of days being up, it looks like it's being quietly accumulated. But let's take a look at what may occur if it runs up past this first target of 412 and the second target around 458. Those are my two targets going forward. But through that, I'm looking for 6, 6.25, and then 8. TEAR have been great this year, and if you take a look at the pattern recently, it's up only 19 cents today, but I wanted to point out that it's a new 3-week high, and it's likely to challenge the spike I reached just under 13, but my target remains 14.5 to as high as 14.75. Short term. Tesla, much like Netflix, and both of them are going in the NASDAQ 100. This is interesting enough to me to see that this stock continues to run along the pattern I set for it. Once it broke through that line there on this big coil, I think it may accelerate at some point and get up to the 150s. That's my target. Yelp, big day as it also popped out of the pennant. See that move today? Jumping 233 or 6.67%. 203 million, that was pretty decent volume for it. Take a look at the overall structure. I believe we're headed higher. We may test the $4 range short term. YRCW continues to astound. As you can see, the move today took it dramatically up about 429 to 13.7%, and nearly a million traded, 938,000. Biggest volume in 5 sessions. At this point, I'm looking for more upside. I think the stock is going to test the top of the channel near 39.40, maybe higher. YY had a day where it popped across resistance to test the prior high for the year at 30.95, reaching 30.71. So if we take this up there, we'll see that the stock could be in a mode where, with the volume of 2.1 million today, the biggest in about 2 months, you can see the run towards 37. That's my next target. If we break out above here, could be a great swing. Up next is Zolt. I think Zoltech, which broke out of a 3-week coiling pattern after breaking out of the base here with this breakaway gap, is due for more upside. Looking for a test of 16.5 short term. That'll take it through this zone. And if it breaks out through that zone, it takes out a 4-year base pattern. You could very well get into the low to mid 20s. This could be interesting. Keep an eye on Zoltech. And that's it for tonight. I'll talk to you tomorrow.